Okay. Well, welcome to Heal Wellness Center and Spa. So this is Wellness Center and Spa. So it's a combination of healing with the holistic approaches from inside and out, and some of the services we offer. You were asking earlier, they are functional medicine, nutrition consultations, and skincare and massage services. And all of the services are kind of natural approaches with the natural products, holistic treatments inside and out. So it's not just topical, it's not just internal, it's a whole person combination of things, which is a bit more applicable for the skin presentations, but for autoimmune, I guess mostly internal that you are concerned about. And but in case you wanted to try other things, all the products are healthy, not harmful to the body, especially when it comes to autoimmune. You have to be especially careful what you put on your body, not just in your body. So is there any particular reason you chose this topic? Do you have autoimmune, if you don't mind sharing?
I do. I have rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
My husband's had a host of different issues that has landed him in the hospital, and we're leaning towards saying it's autoimmune, and he's had tons of tests done. So I'm a firm believer that we need to start from the inside and work our way out. So whatever you're putting in your mouth really makes a huge difference. So
absolutely, yeah. So so this is a quick video I like to play sometimes. It's so autoimmune is very tricky because it could be with a lot of symptoms that you may not even know what they're about, and then just realize that it's autoimmune. And it's so prevalent these days, and more conditions are considered to be autoimmune, because it used to be thought that it caused by other things, and now we realize even diabetes type 2 and Alzheimer's are actually becoming classified, and eczema, things like that, becoming classified as autoimmune in nature. And what it means, as you may or may not know, is that autoimmune is when the body's immune system goes haywire and attacks your own body's healthy tissues, whether it's joints in arthritis case or Crohn's, and that's your digestive tract, or thyroid autoimmune condition, which is Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, or skin issues like psoriasis. So, this is a quick video that I like to get people to understand. It was created by Canadian health system.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment?
Technical support.
yes.
Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at...
Okay. So, that's basically just to give us an content, because autoimmune conditions, so 20% of all autoimmune conditions or people with autoimmune conditions develop more than one. And these are some of the common autoimmune conditions. So it's very common to see someone with psoriasis and also rheumatoid arthritis, and then they develop celiac or Crohn's. Or someone has Hashimoto's and then they develop Crohn's or other problems, so Alzheimer's. And the reason is that the root cause of the autoimmune condition is not being resolved with traditional medicine. So by just resolving the symptoms with just prescription drugs and some topical treatments, we are ignoring the whole root cause of all those autoimmune conditions, and because the root cause is still there, then the new autoimmune conditions could develop easily. So a little bit out of order, but this is, so the triggers and the risk factors. Did you want to?
Yeah.
So Natasha is a nutrition health coach, and she's going to cover some of the triggers and
right. So yeah. So there's various triggers and risk factors for developing any autoimmune disease. The first that many people wonder, well, what's the genetic component of it? You know, and genetics does play a role. It changes also over your lifetime in terms of the gene expression, but it's not. It's about maximum 10% influences. Will you be the person that develops an autoimmune disease because your body is reacting to overstimulation, whether it's toxins, medication, or whatever, and the response of your body is to produce these antibodies so that then it starts attacking itself, which is essentially what an autoimmune disease is. So one of the kind of risk factors is genetics, if you are genetically predisposed to do that, but it's not a massive influence. The other one is hormones. Hormones, a lot of people with autoimmune disease, a lot of them are women because of the role that estrogen plays in our body and in stimulating cells in the body, whereas testosterone is immunosuppressant, so it stops the immune system from reacting as violently, I guess, as estrogen does. So that's why one of the reasons why you would see many more women get it, and because women suffer from hormonal fluctuations throughout their lifetime as well, it can affect, you can get it at certain times of your life when your hormones are changing because, estrogen is more dominant, and so on. So the risk of getting an autoimmune disease is higher in people that start their periods early, because that means their hormones have kicked in early, so they're having a lifetime exposure to estrogen that's longer than for many people. People that take birth control pills will also have a higher risk because they're actually ingesting estrogen more frequently. And then autoimmune can be affected by pregnancy, can be affected by menopause, and so on. Another kind of trigger or risk factor is if you suffer from allergies, seasonal allergies. Allergies are a body's response to something, and so if your body is particularly sensitive and you're suffering from allergies, it can be an indicator that then you're susceptible to contracting an autoimmune disease, because naturally that you have those reactions. The one that I focus on a lot, obviously, is diet, because from a nutritional point of view, as you were mentioning, whatever you're putting in your body has a massive impact. If we consume a ton of food a year, and that is what we process, and how is it, you have to realize that does impact you. And I know Marina's going to talk about it later, but one of the big issues with diet is how it can promote leaky gut, and that is a huge problem from an autoimmune thing. So we do look at diet. There are common ones. Gluten is a common issue. Dairy is another huge issue. Dairy specifically, a lot of people have a reaction to dairy. You lose the enzyme to digest dairy very early on, and so it is very inflammatory in the body, which causes problem. But what a lot of people don't realize as well is dairy is full of estrogen because it's a cow's milk, so it's naturally full of estrogen, and it's meant to promote growth. And it does. It promotes growth of cells in our body, and which is fine when you're young and growing, but when you're you're beyond growing, then it's really not very healthy for us. In terms of diet, autoimmune is very personal because your body, some people will have a reaction to certain foods that other people with autoimmune would not have a reaction to. So it's really looking at, well, what food sensitivities do you particularly have? And so then how should you be adjusting your diet to make sure you manage your autoimmune, because as you mentioned, it needs to be managed so it doesn't progress. You have to get to the root cause so that you don't contract other things, and that is very tailored through your diet. The other thing just to mention is also vaccinations. Like if you've got an autoimmune disease or anything like that, I would avoid the flu vaccine. I would avoid any unnecessary vaccinations altogether, because the vaccination is stimulating the antibodies in your body, and that your body doesn't switch it off. So you get the vaccine, your antibodies are stimulated, and it just doesn't, it doesn't stop that production, and it.
Here's a quick
causes
question.
a
I
lot
don't
of
want to
issues.
interrupt, but
No problem.
it's very strange that you say that, because my husband has flares, like a lot of people do. It's like you
Right.
go in and out. And all of us had the flu last year.
okay.
And he took the Tamiflu,
All right.
and it knocked him into it really destroyed him.
Yes.
So is that similar to like a vaccination kind of thing? Like if you think it's coming on, if you were trying to be literally proactive, you know what I mean, and taking
right,
it.
and taking some.
Is that something that could do that? Does Tamiflu have like the same kind of reaction to your body as would a vaccine?
As the vaccine, I don't know specifically about.
yeah.
It's a prescription. Any prescription medication is really processed by your body as a toxin,
Yeah,
and it has to go through. And he probably was already exposed to.
he
some-
was.
So
He was
had
taking
the
it as he
flu.
calls the prophylactic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he
Try and
just did not
stop
want to
it.
go ahead. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But then
So as you
it
can
really
see-
destroyed him.
Right, as you could see in the, well, I'll talk about it a little bit more. So some of the other triggers are parasites, germs, infections, mold. So he was probably already exposed to some of the infections, virus from the flu, and
Knocked him out.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Tamiflu
Yeah,
doesn't
that's-
really. There are
yeah.
other things that I have. So I'm a functional medicine nutritionist, and I help people with autoimmune condition with a lot of functional medicine approaches, which is non-prescription immune supportive supplements that heal the gut and heal all those triggers without side effects.
Am I late?
Oh, you're early. Oh, well, it depends.
Yeah, it depends on what
Which
class
one?
you're
Which
in.
one you were interested in? Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Julia,
Yeah.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
that's fine. I was.
No, you're good. We're talking about autoimmune.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But yet my rheumatologist insists that I get a flu shot every year.
Yeah. Right.
And says to me, do not take Tamiflu.
yes, I've heard that.
So-
Don't take Tamiflu.
Because I think
that's-
it has some live virus in there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
The
saying.
other one
It's-
does
you're
not.
exposed to more virus.
So
I
she
took
said
that
you
for the
need to
first-
have a flu shot because your auto your sensitivities, that if you get the flu you are going to be knocked out completely. So
I disagree with that, but that's.
But
different
yes,
approach,
yeah. So
and I do.
Right,
I
I
get
have-
the flu shot every year because
Right. I have an autoimmune condition myself, so this is near and dear to my heart because I had it for many years and undiagnosed Hashimoto's probably for a decade before that, and I managed to reverse all the symptoms. I mean, once you have autoimmune condition, it's there for life.
Yeah.
It's like once the switch is turned on, it's triggered, it's on. But you can manage it to the point where there are no symptoms. I'm not on any medication or anything else, but I do take care of things, and support my immune system, heal the gut, which I was going to talk a little bit more in detail as well. But I took one flu vaccine years ago, and I was the sickest I ever was in that year. And I swore I would never do that again, and I never did, and I barely get sick. And if I do, I have things that support my immune system, and within 3 or 4 days, I'm back to normal. So, and it's actually one of the theories of why autoimmune conditions are so prevalent is the clean theory, that their immune system doesn't have anything to fight, so it turns on itself, on your own body. So in a way, being sick is actually a good thing, because that immune system has something to do. It's
It gets
busy
bored.
doing.
Right.
It's bored, so it comes after
So
itself.
instead of attacking itself
Yeah.
and becoming overactive, it's doing other things that it's supposed to do, which is fight viruses, infections, and things. So it's only the problem when those infections settle in the gut, when it's already compromised. Then it's a problem. Did you have anything else?
Well, I was just going to talk.
Demonic?
I was just going to mention again a lot of over the prescription drugs or over the counter drugs, like and leading into the leaky gut thing that I'm sure you're going to cover. That if you're taking a lot of Advil or a lot of painkillers, a lot of Motrin, it permeates the gut lining, and then that can leak into your body, and then you've got a problem. So that was just
Right.
last point to mention.
Yeah, so to reiterate a little bit more in depth, I guess. So you need the three-legged stool of autoimmune. It means you have to have all the conditions just right in order to trigger an autoimmune condition. These days, it's not that difficult. All you need is genetic predisposition, which could be just a genetic mutation or family. You could test for genetic predisposition, but it's really not that important, because it's the other things that you have control over, the genetic things you don't. So the second stool is the stressors, and there are so many of them, including infections that we just talked about. Parasites is another, and it's not just third world countries, it's also in the United States, very prevalent. Parasites, environmental toxins, toxins from food, not eating organic, eating glyphosate sprayed crops, GMO foods, things like that. Or even foods you're sensitive to. Like, you could be eating all organic, but if your body is sensitive to that particular food, and it doesn't have to be, well, gluten and dairy are the most common ones, but it could be anything. Emotional stress, sleeping well, because it weakens your body in general and your immune system as well. And hormones, I think we covered, Natasha covered pretty well. And the third stool is the microbiome imbalance and leaky gut. So, are you familiar with the leaky gut? So it's basically when most of your immune system, like 75% of it, is in the gut, and its job is to defend your body from invaders or foreign toxins. And when we have a leaky gut for one reason or another, whether it's because of infections or stress or food intolerance, the tight junctions, or sometimes it's also nutritional deficiencies, exposure to mold, that's another thing I didn't mention on the previous one. Mold is a big one. Heavy metals also, so exposure to heavy metals or mold could create a leaky gut. So then instead of having all the cells in the gut tight, and that's how we absorb nutrients, when they become damaged, other things could fall through. So then the proteins of gluten or dairy or infections, they could go right into the bloodstream and create inflammation, and that's how that trigger process happens in the gut. So healing the leaky gut is very important for managing autoimmune, and also to prevent future other autoimmune conditions from developing. And that's the functional medicine approach. It's not just the traditional in traditional medicine, it's let's give you very high anti-inflammatories or biologic drugs, and it basically covers up the problem by reducing that inflammation, whether it's in the joints or in the skin, but it doesn't really resolve all those root causes and triggers. So with the functional medicine, it's actually important to support, and it's a little busy, but basically with the DNA you can't do much, but you can support your cellular function. And if you heard of MTHFR, it's a genetic mutation that affects detoxification and also methylation and processes, biological, chemical processes in the body, or biochemical processes. So there are certain supplements that could support that and help your body do the proper methylation functioning, basically, of your cells. Also providing proper nutrition, intracellular nutrition, not just and also important to restore the nutrition levels of what's deficient in the body. So, and we do it through labs. So there are labs that we do here with blood tests or urine tests or saliva tests that help us figure out what's missing or what's causing the problem. So the LEG2, you could, very highly recommended to do a detox for anyone with autoimmune condition, or almost everybody could be helped with a detox because we have such a toxic world that we're exposed to. That's where the lab comes in handy as well, is finding all the infections, pathogens, mold, because if that's one of the root causes or triggers within your body, then we have to address that and get rid of those infections and pathogens.
And you can determine that through a blood test?
It's actually a urine test, and
They do stool too,
yes,
right?
there's
That's
also
the other
stool
one. That's
tests.
fun, but
yeah. So it depends what the symptoms are.
Yeah.
If we suspect it's an infection in the gut, then stool test is better.
yeah.
If it's pathogens or mold, sometimes the urine test is more helpful. It really depends. Also depends on which. I actually just spent a whole day yesterday in training. It was through a lab, but it was about mold and pathogens, and I learned something really new and very recent research that mold actually could, if you're exposed to mold and have autoimmune, mold chews up any collagen or joints in the body. So arthritis or someone with tendonitis or painful just muscles and premature aging, so that mold could be eating up all those collagen connectors, everything that has collagen in your body, like joints, skin, it will suffer because mold eats it, basically. And but you could restore it by proper supplements and by killing the mold in the body, or getting rid of the mold toxins, mycotoxins from your body. And the last one, very important, as I said, leaky gut is a big part of it. So healing the gut and reversing that leaky gut and restoring the microbiome. That's another thing that you may not have heard about. Microbiome is the balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria. And there are actually more bacteria cells in our body than human cells. And it's vitally important that there is a good balance, and good bacteria not only creates certain vitamins, but also controls our even emotions and our brain. So it's kind of catch-22. You have to fix the microbiome to feel good, and you gotta, I guess, make yourself feel good to be motivated to fix the microbiome because it has such control. It could have such a hold on your emotional and physical, feelings. So, yeah, probiotics or intermittent fasting, there are different strategies for managing that. And of course, you could test for that, for the microbiome balance with the stool test. But,
I think everybody has it, don't we? I mean, it's the severity of it.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
and also genetic predisposition.
Sure.
So, and the stress also will, so stress can actually affect the microbiome balance too.
Mhm.
Because they're very sensitive, the little buggers. The good ones are sensitive to stress. And we only have half hour presentations, I think.
We do.
So we have a special package or three levels of packages actually for autoimmune managing autoimmune condition. So the only thing is we don't diagnose any conditions, but if you have a diagnosis from your physician, we could certainly manage it with holistic and functional medicine approaches.
Do you take lab work here? Or
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so I have kits, like if it's a stool test or urine or saliva test, you take it home, send it to the lab. If it's blood work, then I have a phlebotomist, they'll come to your house
Mhm.
and draw blood and send it to the lab.
Mhm.
And
Now, do you work with insurance, or is this all?
so some of the labs are covered by insurance, but most are not because insurances don't necessarily recognize functional medicine yet. Hopefully, it will change eventually. But the blood work is the one that I mentioned. So there is a micronutrient. You could get maybe a few flyers on the SpectraCell. Do you know which ones?
No,